Episode 1 of the show. We're here, kids. Finally, this is Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. And yes, we're reviewing the very first episode of the show here today. Tom Clark here with you, along with Jay Luft and Joe Higgens. This should be fun. We're looking forward to this. We were riffing before we started recording, and Joe very wisely said, all right, we're wasting good material. What are we doing?
Never waste your A material in the green room. Yeah.
And we would have too.
Yes. Yes. Well done. So here we are. You guys heard the intro. You've heard the music. Hopefully everyone approves out there. I think everything came out really nice. You've seen the graphics. We are rolling, baby. So there you go. As we said in the teaser, the world doesn't necessarily need another Ted Lasso podcast, but they're getting one. Yeah. Because we're hell bent on making this happen. So there you go. I need
to talk to someone about it because it is one of those things that I mean, I cry at everything anyway, but this genuinely hit me all the way through it in my heart. And rewatching it, it makes all the later stuff even better, but worse. If you know what I mean, like it's very, yeah.
No, I feel you. It's who's the character from Family Guy that Chris always had to talk to him about what they watched? I love that character. It's like, we got to talk about it. Have you seen this? We've got to talk about it. So they talk about it in this stuff. Oh, it's so good. I go through that all the time. Have you ever watched something older, and then you've just now seen it, but you want to talk to someone and everyone's like, dude, that came out 10 years ago. What are you talking about?
That's me all the time.
At least with something like that's older, though, you've got people to talk about with something new. Like, I remember when we were watching these when they first came out, Joe, and we were like, sort of like tiptoeing around one another till we knew the other had seen it before.
Yeah, we had to sort of like generally sort of jibe someone to see if they were in the same part of it as you were. And we got there in the end, but it was a merry dance for a while.
It was
nice.
It was indeed.
Well, here we go, kids. Let's get into it now. Of course, we're talking about Ted Lasso, as if we haven't made it abundantly clear. This will be Season 1, Episode 1. The title of this episode is Pilot. Very fitting, I would say. Original air date, August 14th, 2020. Yes, it's been that long. Of course, on Apple TV+. This episode directed by Tom Marshall. Story by Jason Sudeikis, Bill Lawrence, Brendan Hunt, and Joe Kelly. There are 10 episodes in Season 1. So there you go with some details kicking it off. Going into this episode, Joe, I think you said you came to this after it was on. Yes? Is that right? Had it already been on before you started watching it?
I think I started watching it at sort of the tail end of Season 2 because I was like, I don't want to watch a program about football. I don't know anything about football. I'm not an actual sports person. Wrestling, yes. Actual sports, no. And a friend of mine was like, no, you'll really like it. So we were sitting there one night and my wife was like, oh, go on, put it on. And then after that bit on the plane where it's let's pretend if we meet in dreams, let's pretend we don't know each other. I was like, this is the show for me. This is it's that thing of it's clever within its own world, but there's also genuine characters in it. And rewatching the first episode, it is abundantly clear that it is a pilot because everything's slightly off as to where you're used to it being. Like the angle, they haven't like determined the camera angles where they're supposed to be, and you don't get the locked off shots that you would normally get, and like the stadium doesn't look right, but it's still Ted Lasso, and you can see why they looked at this and was like, yeah, we'll pick this up for 3 seasons.
What about you, Jay? Did you come to this show in the very beginning or no?
No, I I'd had Apple TV for as long as I could remember, like, but prior to Ted Lasso coming out, I'd never used it. I just like had got it as part of my phone deal. I was like, oh yeah, I'll get to that. Never used it, and then it was earlier the year. Early last year. I think it was just after the second season had come out. I just watched 1 and 2 in one big go, and then I've been waiting for 3 since, and then it finally coming. It was like a breath of fresh air.
It's funny enough. I'm going to sit here and say I can't remember if I followed. I can't remember if I followed directly from episode 1, but I do believe we jumped in during season 1. I believe is how it went. When you watch so much content, sometimes you get fuzzy on it. That's kind of where I'm at with this. But yeah, a lot to keep up with. So let's talk about this, guys. We open on football practice. The first cast member we see, the first person we get to see on this show is Hannah Waddingham as Rebecca Welton, the new owner of AFC Richmond.
Lovely Rebecca Waddingham.
Oh my God. Can we all take a minute and bask in her glory?
I know you probably didn't, but if you watched this year's Eurovision, she was one of the hosts.
I did, actually.
My God, I would have crawled over broken glass with my fly open for that woman. She just got it. Not because she's like a 7 foot tall Amazon woman as well. So snoo is on the cards, but she got it. She got the fact that it's a bit daft and a bit camp and a bit silly. I loved that thing about it. But in this as well, I forgot how horrible she is at the start.
Oh, I know. She's a monster.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I don't know whether I like this now.
She definitely has the whole, certainly the first half, the first series, she's got the whole kind of she's still really bitter and really hurt from a divorce. And you can see it's a really kind of it's really raw to her. And she's just literally all right, I'm gonna destroy the one thing that my ex-husband loved the most, which is this football club.
Letting it consume her, at the cost of that, and that's the thing that's the redemption arc of her, is that Ted essentially saves her soul from becoming an embittered, horrible woman.
He does.
Person, not woman, person.
She goes from being this kind of cutthroat, I'm going to destroy everything my ex-husband loved person, to at the end being a cutthroat businesswoman who wants to make the club thrive because it's hers now. And the journey we take to that, even in the first episode, there's so much foreshadowing that you can see she's gonna Ted's going to break her down. We'll get to it in a little bit, but there's just little things every now and again you see, and it's oh yeah, you can tell she's gonna come good.
There are those moments where she's talking and Ted just says something, and you see her sort of break for a second and then go, and the mask drops again, and she's back into just being business bitch. But it is just, and again, it's those little things that I didn't pick up on it on the first time round, but now knowing how it all plays out, you can see that it was there all along.
Yes, he begins getting through her armor in the first episode, and all he's doing is just pinging at it. But yeah, he breaks through eventually. Well, you're 100% right.
The first thing, which was something I noticed when I was watching it back, he's the first person in the entire show who asks how she's actually doing, how she's dealing with the divorce. When she's taking him on the tour, and he says the whole thing, he goes, "Oh, how are you? All right? How are you getting on with that?" And you can see she kind of takes a minute and goes it's like she's taken aback, no one's asked her. Everyone's so busy pointing out that she was the idiot because he had all these women on the side, and she was the last to know that when someone genuinely asks her a nice, genuine question about her own well-being, she's shocked that anyone's actually cares, because it's become this kind of media circus for her.
But as she also mentions as well, as a woman, in the media, it's her fault. It's never the man's fault. And she has to bear the brunt of that, which pays off later with other storylines as well. And you do kind of feel sorry for her, but it's the fact that she's had to put up this armor, this thing to protect herself, because she's as we find out, she is a fragile woman. She's a fragile person. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants the media knocking on the door. When they start pulling Ted apart in that press conference, you can see her go, I know what that's like. I've been in these situations, and she sort of steps in to save him, but also doesn't want to because she wants him to fail.
Of course.
It's the start of that synergy between the two. Yeah. And I genuinely think that they're the best pairing throughout the show.
Yeah, there was a lovely bit as well in that press conference scene where like Trent asks his first question and Ted goes, "Oh, I really like those glasses," and Trent just takes them off. And it's just like, again, it's Trent trying to be like project himself as being an arsehole when really it's almost like he's really intrigued by everything to do with the club, and you can tell he's quite passionate about the club, but because he doesn't necessarily think Ted belongs where he is, he's trying to give him the cold shoulder.
Everyone has a thin candy shell when this show begins, and Ted
Yes.
gets through every one of them.
Yes.
I love that. I love that.
Because I never realized how horrible like the actual team were to each other as well.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
There's just
Yeah, I thought it was just Jamie and Roy initially.
no, like all of them are just horrible people, and there is no. It's everyone out for themselves, and it's so again now seeing that, and then the ending of it is this beautiful journey.
Absolutely.
But, yes, it is. The thing is, we find out that Rebecca has become the owner of AFC Richmond, not a real football team.
Right.
No.
So let's tell the kids out there who they're based on, Jay.
So they're actually based on Crystal Palace, and they use, even though Crystal Palace are in the show, same colours. They actually use Crystal Palace's ground, Selhurst Park, for a lot of the actual like match day shots because the seats are the same colours.
Is the external shots the same? Because
no, God no.
Right. Because I was going to say that looks like my local football ground.
Well, funnily enough, if that was a Premier League team, like in reality, they probably have to. They probably wouldn't be allowed in the league until they'd like done massive renovations on the ground.
But
it's something we're seeing now with Luton Town, who've just been promoted, who had upon promotion got given like an £8 million invoice to say this is what you need to do to fix your ground to our standard.
Wow.
Yeah. So
it's nothing to sneeze at.
So Nelson Road wouldn't actually have
passed
from the shots you see like from the street, it wouldn't have been allowed to be in the Premier League.
Looks like it's still got stands,
yeah. Which again the Premier League doesn't allow.
No.
That's almost like non-league level.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's literally Ratcliffe Borough Football Club has stands and like 4 seats that you have to fight over.
This is Hollywood taking liberties just so they can tell their story. Yes.
I mean, yeah. When we get to where Ted and Beard live, it is like a whimsical,
isn't it?
Borough, and I'm like, London. There are places in London like that, but they're.
I want to find out where in London it is so I can go visit it.
I guarantee you, it probably isn't anything like that.
It's probably Stratford. That's where it is.
Yeah, to be fair.
Or Kent, somewhere in Kent or Essex, just on the outskirts of London.
Where they filmed Hot Fuzz.
Love that movie. Are you kidding me? This could become a Hot Fuzz podcast quick.
Crazy.
So Rebecca's the first one we meet. Very cool. The second person we meet is Jeremy Swift as Leslie Higgins. This character is fantastic. I love this guy so much. Of course, we immediately hear about Rupert and the divorce, as you said. Rebecca straight away fires George Cartrick, played by Bill Fellows, who is great. This dude feels like an actual honest-to-God person, doesn't he?
He is like a lot of the old school British football managers, though.
He's like a sort of like 80s, 90s British football manager.
Do I not like again? But I forgot about his little shorts that he comes shuffling in his tiny wee shorts. And
I love that line where Rebecca says, "Oh, if you leave, and can you get me a salad? No raisins in it, though."
Yeah, she fires him straight away. She lists casual misogyny as a reason.
And Liam. Yes. Yeah, because he's old school. He's like your Dennis Taylor. No, that's a snooker player.
Brian
Clough.
Yeah, he reminds me of Cloughie a bit.
And it's just that, like, that's just how it was back then, before we had like the Premier League and stuff. It was sort of rough and ready British football, like, sort of stuff. And he is of that school, and that's not his fault. That's just how he is.
Mm.
But it's the fact that he stomps off, just like in his little shorts, and it's just like a toddler like having a tantrum.
He is. Yeah. He flips her off on the way out, I think.
But he does say it's that thing of what's worse, your husband cheating on you, or you being the last person to find out about it.
Right.
As like spitting in her face as he walks off.
Yeah,
it is.
I mean, we see him later on. He becomes as they all do. He becomes a pundit.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
I do
for such a small role, it's incredibly well rounded out. Like you said, he feels like an actual character.
Feels like he
feels like he has a backstory and a wife, and they go to like Luft every year on holiday. Like you know that kind of person.
He's definitely the kind of guy to go to Luft, find the only English pub in the island, get a full English every morning and a pint with his breakfast.
Pint of John Smith's and the Sun. Yeah. Absolute rotter of a boy. But that's just how he is. That's just how he was raised. He's a different generation.
Actually, he's a Scouser. I don't think he gets the Sun.
Some of the British references are going to fly straight over my head. I'm going to be real with both of you guys.
The Sun is a trash newspaper for trash people.
I know that bit, but I'm determined to follow along and learn something. This will be a learning experience for me. So,
if at any point you want to just put like a record scratch in, and we can just cut in with like dictionary definitions of what things are for you.
Who is it is it Amazon that does you can hit the in-screen features? It'll give you dialogue on the screen about what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, Prime does that. It's great.
Great.
Yeah, I speaking of the Sun, I did like when there was the journalist from the Sun, and as soon he's like the biggest slime ball he could get.
As soon as he stood up, all the rest of the
everyone
groaned him.
Yeah. And then, of course, he doesn't ask anything about football. He asks Rebecca about a divorce.
Yeah, because he's
and it's like, yeah, of course, fuck off the Sun.
But again, before we get to that, we cut to an American ESPN style station.
Yeah,
that is Scott Van Pelt on ESPN. I got that one. There you go.
So, one thing about whenever they have any kind of like football and pundits, or obviously with ESPN, I was going to ask you, is that an actual like Sports Center host? Because all the hosts they have on like on the football side of it, are actual hosts over here.
They are.
So like
apart from George
and Roy at that one point.
Yeah.
But like even like Chris Powell, who's one of the commentators, he's a former footballer. He does like radio commentary. I don't think he does much on TV, but he still is like a genuine commentator from a retired footballer.
But it's again, they've got these people involved in it, which makes it feel more real and more good.
It does
in that state. But he's announcing
Ted.
No, it's what's the team called?
The Wichita State Shockers.
Oh, that's a name.
I know, right?
But yeah, Ted has led them to a victory in their division. It's not like the top flight though, is it? It's lower tier. I don't know how any sports work really, but
it's Division 2, so it's still a win, it's still a trophy, still important, but it's Division 2, so it's not Division 1 in other words.
Oh yes, because that pays off later on when we're getting Ted's Division 2 is the Premier, and there's the Premier League, and then that's that whole bit.
Yes,
but he's also like, you can see he's doing his Running Man dance, and everyone in that locker room is giving him 100% adoration. Like you can see this is what he does. Like he turns things around, not by meanness and not by like bullying people, but by just treating people like people and finding out what it is that like makes them tick.
Absolutely.
You don't know this yet. You just see a man dancing, and then we cut to like Ted on the plane with Coach Beard, and this kid.
This kid is fucking great. I'll say it.
He's great, but I hate him.
He's such a knob. He's such a knob.
It's the thing
So we're talking about Tommy, played by Bill Skinner, the kid with the cell phone in his hand. Yes.
Oof.
Yeah.
But it's the can I take an Ussy?
Hmm.
And as a wrestling fan, I'm like, that's a bit too close to Usyk. But also, also the fact that he explains it because there's us in it, so it's not a selfie. I'm like, I get it, but it's stop trying to make Ussy happen. But he then explains to him as well, yeah, you're a legend, but also they're gonna murder you.
Yeah. It's great.
I think this does a really good job though of kind of setting up like how accepting of everybody Ted is, because while we're all kind of like cynical and rolling our eyes like this guy's the worst, Ted's giving him the time of day, like, oh, I really like that. And like when he says, "Oh, I'm gonna murder," he goes, "Well, I hope not. I woke up this morning." And so like he's just having a normal conversation with him.
It must be brilliant to be Ted and have nothing bring you down ever, because
No worries.
you always look for the positive in.
And then though, what the duality of this character, to get that deep, the duality of this character is while he is those things, then you see the anxiety set in. He has panic attacks.
Yes.
Like you can only keep that up for so long, and eventually you got to have a bad day, right?
He can instill confidence in others, but it depletes his own self-confidence.
Yes,
I didn't realize how early they foreshadowed that.
Yeah,
like they did it in the press conference, didn't he? They had like the sort of ringing, and I was like, "Oh,
ringing!" And then I think when he's at his first training
session, he's like,
because
ringing his
Beard
hand,
catches it as well. Beard sees it and doesn't say anything, but he just gives him a little look. And I'm like, so it's again, we're already there, and this is the pilot. This is like, we don't know if this is getting picked up,
doesn't he? Yeah, he says, what was it you said to me on our first day at Wichita? They're just kids, boss. and then Ted looks over at like McAdoo and goes, "Oh, he's a big kid."
Yeah. And Brendan Hunt as Coach Beard is
he's wonderful.
Great. He's awesome.
The more we find out about Coach Beard, the more I want Coach Beard the early years sort of spin-off.
Oh, that'd be great. Wouldn't that be great?
It would, but I don't think we do need to see it. It's just the stuff he gets up to. That one weird Coach Beard episode that we'll get to.
Yeah.
Is one of those ones when watching it the first time I was like, no, this isn't Ted Lasso. But then it's fleshing out a character that has such mystery and intrigue surrounding them, and it only makes it worse.
It's like with Beard. So there's like that first kind of team talk where he shouts like, "Everyone shush," and Ted's like even shot like, "Oh, okay." And then he's so enigmatic throughout the series, and you just get like kind of drip fed little things, even down to one thing I noticed was when they were on the plane was Beard's reading a book called Inverting the Pyramid. Yep. And obviously it's like, it's all kind of like, it's about total football, which is the tactic that Ted will eventually go to use. It's just like really clever how like Beard's kind of foreshadowing what's going to happen. But then he's so mysterious in himself. But when you do find out a little bit about him, it's like,
because it is one of those things that I might have to keep track of as we watch this, the books that he's reading.
Oh, that's a good call. Yeah.
Because he's always in the office and he's always got a book on the go. And I'm like, are they going to be foreshadowing bits of plot? Or are they just little, in jokes to themselves? I didn't know he was reading. I didn't clock that he was reading Inverting the Pyramid. Yeah.
Well, it's only because like Ted like makes a comment on it, and he's like, "You're gonna have to teach me everything you've learned in this book." And then it turns out that like, even though Ted doesn't learn it from Beard, he does learn it.
He figures it out on his own after drinking tea, the worst kind of tea.
Yeah.
The tea becomes a character in this show too. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but it's it when they're like we need to go to sleep, and Ted I think the fact that he turns around with such glee had like childish delight on his face and says, "If we meet in our dreams, let's pretend we don't know each other just to mess about with them." And I'm like, it's such a beautiful thing. They land, they meet. Is he called Ollie, the driver? And they're like, "Can we take a quick stop?" And they go and look at Tower Bridge, but Ollie is still stood there holding the Ted Lasso sign up for some reason. I just thought it's a really weird beat, but it's just these little things that round out characters. Like,
100%.
told to stand there and hold that sign.
I love when they go to the to Tower Bridge and Ted goes, "We're not in Kansas anymore. I've never said that before."
And the driver tells him, it's Tower Bridge. He goes, "Right, not London Bridge, because this one's still up." It's a very quick little joke that they put in there. It's a very quick little joke. I love that stuff. Yeah. I think you are right, Matt. Go ahead.
No. They then arrive at the dog track, Richmond's football ground, and also training ground.
Yeah,
Yes,
again, that's a very like non-league sort of thing that they train.
Yeah,
on
because I thought they're normally
pitch.
miles away.
Normally, like Liverpool FC, where I'm living, that's like they've got the stadium, which is in Anfield, and then in Kirby, like about a 30-minute drive away, give or take, they've got like a massive training complex outside the city. They used to have a place called Melwood, which was like a bit closer to the ground, which was literally just a park. But they've obviously now it's like a massive like training facility. A lot of teams do though. They'll have it so it's like it's off the beaten track, so people can't really like just spy on the training sessions and stuff like that.
But also,
So that's just what I was going to ask. What would be the reason to have practice separate so the public can't see it? And is it also for the pitch that they want to protect that, or is that
for the pitch? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And also the other thing, because I've noticed this when I have done like, because sometimes you'll find like a team will train on the ground like the day before a big match or something. So like if there's people doing like a stadium tour, obviously Richmond aren't doing that, but if there's people doing like a stadium tour, they'll like allow people to go and sit in the stands and look at the pitch. So obviously if they're training on the pitch, people aren't allowed in because they might see like some
top
secret weapon tactic that the manager's like trying to like learn.
What was it? The backwards toboggan or whatever. Yeah. And all the secret plays.
The Oscar.
Yes. But they arrive and they step out onto the pitch, and we get this quite good shot of them walking down like a narrow sort of gap between the stands, and it opens out, and then like they walk out onto the pitch, and we just get someone screaming from the opposite corner at them, and it turns out that it's anti-hero / hero / redemption arc, the character that needs to be saved, Nathan, and who is the kit man, but also groundskeeper? ?
I think so. Nick Muhammad as Nate Shelley. That's him. Can we just say how great he is in this episode, and how he is so incredibly likable? You know what I mean?
I think that's what makes what happens to him all the worse, to be honest.
Yeah.
But because he's just someone who is so browbeaten and so like just whipped, like a dog sort of thing, that he won't speak up. He's the genuine joy on his face when Ted remembers his name. And when he turns around and he says Nate, and he goes, "Is that he's talking to me?" And he says, "Unless another Nate appears, you're Nate by default."
Yeah.
And it's such a lovely thing because he's never had that. He's just always like, as we find out, they bully him and they pick on him, and because he's the kit man, he's the lowest in the pecking order.
See, over here in the States, he'd be the water boy. That's what he'd be here.
Yes, H2O.
That's it. Yeah, he's great here, man. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And
but as they're walking up, it's the line when Nate says to him as well. He says, "Oh, you're the new coach." do you want some more grass?
Yeah, yeah.
He's going to
Because
give
he's
him
panicking.
just bits of turf.
Yeah. I
No,
got
we're
some more. I
fine.
said, I'll get you some more. And he goes, no, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah. I got thoughts on his story arc. We'll get there eventually. But man.
Oh,
I got
question as well. Are Nathan's hot dogs a real thing?
Yes, absolutely. They
Right,
originated in New York. Yeah.
It's not a joke that lands over here because, yeah.
They're delicious, by the way. Same.
And
all
that's
hot
part of the
dogs
joke.
are, but
And that's part of the joke because Nate doesn't get it.
yeah.
And he's like, is that a thing? And he's like, oh, yeah, you don't have that over here.
Yeah. That's like that line he delivers later. I can't remember if it's episode 1 or 2. And he said, did y'all get the OJ trial over here? And I'm like, what? I think it's episode 2. What a great line.
I think that's deliberately disarming as well, though, which is what Ted does really well. Is play on British people's assumption of Americans' naivety. But anyway, we'll get to that when we get to that. He goes and meets Rebecca, and this is the first time they meet. And Ted introduces himself, and he says, "Oh, thank you, Miss Welton." And she says, "Call me Rebecca. Miss Welton's my dad."
Yes.
And Ted just goes, "Okay, well, we'll have a talk about that later." And
it's a great
I don't know if you're joking or if that's something we're gonna have to unpack.
that's
later
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a really good sort of disarming line. And that's what he does so well. Is just look past, like I said, that armor that they put up and see the person inside. We get Ted's first taste of tea.
I'm with Ted on this.
Which tastes like
hot brown water.
Brown sad water.
Hot brown water.
Hot brown water.
Yeah, I like tea. I'm a big tea. I drink green tea, peppermint tea, and matcha. I don't drink a lot of actual tea. But if you bang a load of sugar in it, it tastes nice.
She says, how do you take your tea? So usually I take it right back to the counter because somebody's made a horrible mistake. That's good. That's really good. Yeah. She shows him around and tells him, and this is a great line. She tells him there might be ghosts wandering around. I ask him if he believes in ghosts, and he says he does. But more importantly, he says they need to believe in themselves. And he delivers it so straight face.
Yeah.
And right off the bat, she's like, I don't know. Who is this guy? Like right away.
Because, again, you don't know if it's like weird homespun wisdom, sarcasm, genuine beliefs, or a combination of all three. And I think that's what makes Ted such an enigmatic character, is that you're not sure what's what.
There's so many layers to him, which makes him such an intriguing character. Because, like, obviously he's got, like, kind of, like, carefree, happy-go-lucky Ted that he, like, shows everyone. Then he's got, like, his sort of, like, struggles with anxiety. And then even like, at the end of this episode, when he, like, calls home, and it seemed... I remember when I first watched this, I forgot how, like, dark it came across, where, like, he calls and then he's like, yeah, I love you. Oh, sorry, you don't have to say it back. It's like, whoa, okay, like, there's...
I'm giving you the space you wanted.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Until that point, like, the only hint that you knew that Ted was a family man was when he's decorating like his office and he puts the good luck dad card down. Before that, there's no reference to his family whatsoever.
There's a picture of his son and his wife on his phone, I think we see as well. But yes.
Oh God, yeah, there is. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot about that.
But yeah, we get he gets thrown into the press room, which we've already seen. We've already talked about. Like, they sort of start pulling him apart, ripping him up because Ted doesn't like fizzy water.
Not a fan. No.
when he's like panicking and he drinks it.
He drinks it again. It's like, I should have expected that. But in fact, as he's leaving as well, I apologize for spitting up on all your equipment.
Because everyone puts their phone
even after they've bullied him to the point of like having to be saved by the owner of the club, he's still polite and stuff to them, and you can sort of see some of them like warming up to him a little bit because, you know, football is it's all the way through this as well. I forgot there are all the little bits that him and Beard are doing about they don't call it into touch, they call it offside, and all these little bits that they're doing throughout it, and it's really good because he uses them wrong in every situation.
Yeah,
but he's trying to learn, and he ends up in the dressing room where we're introduced to most of the team.
We get Sam, we get Jamie. So Toheed Jamo, which I may be pronouncing it wrong, hopefully not, as Sam Obsiana. Obisanya, excuse me. Phil Dunster. Both these guys are fantastic, by the way. Phil Dunster is Jamie Tart. Brett Goldstein as Roy Kent. Roy Kent. Great. He tells the room if he doesn't hear silence, he's going to start punching dicks, which sets the tone for who Roy Kent is.
Yeah. Again, I forgot how much of a little shit Jamie Tart is.
He is. Oh my god.
Right? Because I've only used to seeing the last season where he rounds out lovely, but at this point he is such an arrogant little tit.
He is.
Yeah. We get Sam as well, and Sam has transferred from Nigeria, but hasn't been having a great season. And Ted's like, oh, well, we'll have to see why that is. But Roy Kent makes this scene. Oi! And he's just got one of those voices.
Yeah.
That cuts through, but also sounds like how I imagine Judge Dredd to sound. Like,
ooh.
Yeah, it is just that thing of,
I like that.
Yeah. And he's great. Like, he again, it's the fact is that at this point we're only introduced to like those three. The Welsh lad, whose name escapes me at the moment, Colin, and like there are other people there.
Yeah, but the only other like people who are kind of you sort of see stick around is McAdoo and I can't remember the French guy's name. He's in the first scene talking because Roy turns around and says, "No one here speaks French."
Yeah,
as he's watching the thing.
And you get the feeling he's probably said that before to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, But again, it's this incredibly disharmonious locker room that they're working in. What was it Ted said as he walks in? I like the smell of a locker room. It smells like
potential.
Axe body spray.
Oh, I forgot that bit. Yeah.
Oh, they
like
call it something
on
different here.
Yeah, that's right.
Lynx, my favorite of the African cats.
Yeah.
It's just, he's just a beautiful man. Like,
I call these Ted-isms. These little one-liners that they're just hit and run one-liners.
He's so good at them though, because I'm so busy laughing at one that I miss the next one. It's that Arrested Development thing of just layering jokes on each other so fast and so quick that you're barely laughing at one and you miss the next one and you have to rewatch it, I guess.
What about when Ted wants to speak to the team and Rebecca says, "Can't keep a gaffer from his pitch," and he tells Beard, "I'm 0-2 for everything in that sentence." It's great.
I also think, sorry to cut back, in that press conference, I think Rebecca says it isn't the Richmond way, it is the Ted Lasso way.
Yes.
Yeah, she says we're doing things a different way now. We're doing it the Lasso way.
Which comes back later on at the end. And then what have we got?
Well, she comes to his defense, as you said, telling the mom that they've abandoned all sense of manners and hospitality. This was a great moment for someone it's bitter at this point. She points out that while they're being salty, she can't remember the last time the press room was that full, and she's seen the team play more than anyone. In all those years, she had seen profound mediocrity, and that Ted may not have the CV they all find acceptable, but he does have something the club doesn't have, a trophy from this millennium.
I think
great.
This is one of the first instances in the series where you see that deep down Rebecca is a good person.
Yeah,
she's just she's just extremely bitter at the moment.
She's not going to let an innocent man get pulled apart by.
Yeah, and she can see he's floundering, she can see he's struggling, and she's like,
choking on fizzy water.
Yeah, I say, right, I need to step in here and kind of like stop this before it becomes worse than it is.
And you know what? It's again trying to get deep here, but she's grieving. Like, yes, he cheated on her. Yes, he's a scumbag. We know, we find out later what a dick he really is. But she's grieving. This was the guy she loved for a lot of years.
Sacrificed her youth to,
Thank you. And like, she's grieving as if he's died, because the first step of, what is it? The first step is anger. It's the first thing you go through. Anger, rage. I mean, and it just goes from there. So she's grieving at the same time, for sure.
That's what I think. What makes Rebecca one of the most well-rounded characters in it, because she goes through what anyone would go through. And it's not just Ted. It's not just Ted who rein her in. Her relationship with Leslie draws her in, and it is, and especially her relationship with. We've not mentioned her yet, and she's in this all the way through. Yes, like she's again when she comes into the locker room. Are you all decent? Oh, it all comes back at the end.
Juno. Yes, it does. Juno Temple is Keely Jones. Yeah.
The thing that I noticed with that, which was a really good bit of foreshadowing, was like when she said to Ted, like a little bit later when she comes back to the locker room, she says to Ted, you much of a tweet? And he goes, nope, don't use it. I can beatbox though. But then after that, she says, she kind of like says, don't go on Twitter and don't look up these things. It's like she's already thinking of the PR thing. She just doesn't realize.
Yeah. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do when someone beatboxes in front of me.
I never know what to do. That's great.
Also, but as it's the pilot, you notice that Keely's really muted. Like, she isn't wearing like the flamboyant pinks and stuff that she wears. She's quite down to earth in it, which isn't a bad thing at all. But and this is Keely, who Juno Temple, who is Jamie Tartt's girlfriend, but is sort of, I think, what they called like zoo girls here, or like
she's like a glamour model, isn't she?
Glamour model, that's the word. Yeah.
And also, I didn't mean to step on everybody.
Go on.
No, I was going to say because we flew by 4 people. Can you tell us our first episode? We flew by 4 people here. Adam Colborn as Baz, Bronson Webb as Jeremy, and Kevin Gary as Paul. I
love
the Crown and Anchor.
I never knew they had names.
Yes.
I just always referred to them as those 3 in the pub.
Same. Baz, Jeremy,
they are. They just yelling at Ted as he walks home one day, aren't they?
They call him Wanker a lot.
Yeah.
So
they're always kind of like little shits to Ted at first, but then
they are.
Again, you can see they're like, even they're growing in like the limited exposure to Ted of just seeing him at the pub every now and again. They're like growing as people as well. It's so cool to see.
And also the fact that you've got, is it Mo behind the bar?
May.
She reminds just Big Mo from EastEnders.
Yeah.
You've got May behind the bar, who is like Richmond through and through, but also is prepared to give like Ted a chance. She's the only one later on who is like, well, let's see how it goes, because they're all calling him a wanker and stuff. Sure. And it is again not a great character. She comes across as a very wise old woman, but there is her and them 3 lads dynamic is a good sort of back and forth of, if you've ever been in an English pub that is your local, there will be someone behind the bar who will just chat shit at you constantly.
Yeah, can confirm from working in a few.
Yes, and me.
May's played by Annette Badland as well, who's like quite a prolific British actress. And she tends to play like that sort of like mother hen role in a lot of British TV shows. and films as well. I think she's probably been in Harry Potter. Everyone who's a British actor or actress has been in Harry Potter.
Have we done the bit where Ted's watching them train, and he's Beard's pointing out who people are? And
no, we haven't.
Oh, because
we sort of touched on it, didn't we?
Because I think that's where he calls Nate over, and Nate brings him over some energy drinks. And Beard's like, that's nice, and that's a big compliment from him. But it's the line of, where's he from? Wales, and that's in this country. How many countries are in this country?
They're like 5.
4 but 1.
4. He's like, I'll never get this.
I love the fact that Ted's like bemused at like, because obviously I didn't realize how much of a thing it was in like American football, that it's like it's pretty much just Americans who play it. Like it's not, they don't have like people coming from like all over like different leagues and different countries like playing it in that league. It's just that it's something that like I kind of took for granted when he was like, there's people from that far away coming here to play for this team.
Yeah. And then I think we round it out, don't we? Oh no, we get Roy. Ted takes Roy and says like, and has a chat with him, and Roy stomps off, and he says to Beard, doesn't he? He's like, if you think he's angry now, wait until we make him our friend. Wait until we win him over.
Yeah,
and that's when we get the believe sign. This believe sign here.
Yeah,
he starts hanging up, and I always thought, having seen it there, I always thought it was hung crooked as a part of a joke because it's painted crooked. But I was wrong. You know how you just like Mandela effect things in your brain.
True. He hangs it crooked one way, and then Keeley helps him.
And it's still
when
crooked.
He hangs it, the words are level.
But yeah, when he like the words are level, but the actual piece of paper isn't.
Yeah, right. Again, it's just one of those things. I always thought that was like sort of one of those things was that it might not be the easiest path, but it is right in the end, sort of thing. But I guess I've just added my own spin onto it in my brain.
Well, when he compliments Roy, we got to get this line. He compliments Roy, and Roy has, I never thought I would end up being coached by Ronald McDonald.
Fucking McDonald.
Great. Oh.
Also, I forgot. I had to explain to my wife who Biz Markie was as well. When Ted does his beatboxing thing as well. And then we get them leaving.
Yeah.
Rebecca has promoted Leslie. I keep calling him Leslie Higgins at this point. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he is now like chief director of football operations or some made up role. Like
it's actually a real role. It's essentially like so the manager can kind of just focus on the pitch, and their job is essentially to run the club, bring in new players, bring in like sponsorship deals occasionally and stuff like that. But she's promoted him for the purely vindictive reason to get him on board with her plan to fuck with club.
Because like you can see here at this point, Higgins is kind of into Ted, and he kind of like is digging him.
Yeah, he's the only character I think who stays more or less the same throughout the series.
He's a nice guy, but he's kind of timid, but not.
That's
like
a good
Nathan
call.
Timid.
Yeah,
like he's just a man who knows when to speak and knows when to hold his tongue.
Yeah, he just comes out of his shell a little bit.
He's a yes man
about it. Yeah.
Well, so kids, if anyone out there is a fan of the Major League films, and you had seen Major League before Ted Lasso, a lot of this is essentially the plot from Major League, right?
It is
where
like
like she's trying to sabotage the team so she can move the franchise to a bigger city. Well, here the owner's trying to sabotage the team because it belonged to her ex-husband. So
just to hurt her ex-husband.
Yes.
No disregard to the hundreds of people that would put out of jobs.
Their families, the crew.
It would literally kill the like the tourism in the area and stuff. When West Ham moved from where my missus's mum used to live, all the pie and mash shops and all that shit. Match day dead now.
Wow.
It's down at thingy, isn't it? Yeah. It kills an area if a team dies. It really does.
By the way, we also never mentioned James Lance as Trent Krim.
Oh, we did. We didn't, but also, yeah.
That's great.
Trent's one of my favorite characters throughout the show, I think.
Same, yeah.
Trent Krim, the independent.
So good. Yeah. I love the way he's always just lurking for a story in the first series.
But again, he gets a really nice payoff. But in this, he's working for the independent as well. So why is he asking the question, is this an effing joke? Like, because that's if you know anything about British, the Independent isn't that kind of newspaper.
No.
I don't even think the Independent exists anymore. I don't know who reads newspapers.
It's called
Dead trees. Yeah. But he wouldn't have done that, and it's fine. But Trent Krim is, because he's always got this weird kind of brooding sort of thing about him. Like he's halfway through writing a book about like Anglo-Greek history, but just can't be bothered to finish it because he doesn't know how to. He started something he can't finish.
Can we say how many pretty people there are in this series? Like,
everyone
handsome,
is beautiful,
right?
Yeah,
everyone is beautiful in this.
Yeah.
Again, like, not to be horrible, but I forgot how good looking Abasanya is. Like, he's a beautiful man. Yeah,
he is. Yeah,
there's just everyone in it is. I guess because it's football and everyone's. Again, nowadays everyone's beautiful in football. You look back at like fucking.
Baseball was the same way in the States. It was.
I was gonna say. I was gonna say Neil Ruddock's a good example of that.
Neil Ruddock is, but yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't have a player who was like him in the show. He's kind of like a cult, like football and like legend who looks like he doesn't like have any kind of like workout. He just eats a pie and have a pint before the match.
I was going to go with Pete Beardsley, but whatever.
Yeah, Peter Beardsley. He didn't have any teeth.
All right, lads.
Trent says you're an American who's never set foot in England, whose athletic success has only come at the amateur level, a second tier one at that, and is now being charged with the leadership of a Premier League football club, despite clearly possessing very little knowledge of the game. And Ted's smiling the whole time. Says, "Is there a question in there, Trent?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, is this a fucking joke? That's great. What a great line."
Again, though, that kind of like shows in itself, like you can see that Trent's obviously quite passionate about the club. Even though obviously as a like I don't know with sports journalists
he's sniffing around for a hot gossip.
I know, but I think with sports journalists that are kind of like based on that team, usually they'll either support it or at least follow it enough that they kind of have an appreciation for the team.
I don't know. Trent has a dark arc and redemption, doesn't he? So
Trent's digging in episode 2. Trent's trying to trip him up.
I think the thing with Trent is that he obviously starts off like a typical journalist, where it's like, oh yeah, this guy's like looking for dirt. He's looking to catch Ted out.
Yeah.
But then, as soon as he starts like doing the book in the third season, you can see like you doubt him all the time, but you can see that he genuinely cares about it.
To be fair, he's been there from the start of Ted's career with Richmond, and so he can see firsthand the effect that he has had on the entire operation. Like, so he knows that Ted is coming from a place of goodness. So I think that might have something to do with it as well, and realizing that you can be the better person for the sake of your own soul rather than to sell a story. Yeah, that's what happens with Colin and stuff. Yeah.
You know, we were talking about the plan that Rebecca has. The fact is, we don't know anything right now. It's too early.
No.
We get a lot more in depth later. But when she tells Higgins, I know there will be elements to this little adventure that will weigh on you a little bit, but I'm sure it won't be harder than it was to sneak all of Rupert's women in and out behind my back all those years.
That stuck in my craw a little bit.
Yeah.
Because knowing what Higgins becomes later on, and how much he becomes like the right hand of her. But I guess everyone can forgive. Everyone is redeemable.
I think
if the show is nothing, it is about redemption.
I think the thing with Higgins though is like he's what you could call like a servant of the club. Like he's fiercely loyal to the club. So he was fiercely loyal to Rupert to the point that he was doing things that made him kind of question his morals. And now he's fiercely loyal to Rebecca in the exact same way.
But also, he's got 5 mouths to feed at home.
Yeah.
And he's got double bass strings to buy. They ain't cheap.
Got jazz gigs to go to.
They're like a good set of double bass strings is about 120 quid. Like they're not cheap. He's got. So I understand why he's done what he's done, and also, but like I said before, he's a yes man. He will just do whatever was required of him, and it's only Ted that brings out the sort of independent streak of him, as we see in the next episode.
Yeah. And we know also that he and Ted are the only two with families here, so they've got something in common.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
I don't think they ever mention it, but when we get to the Christmas episode, again, that's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah. So good.
Genuinely makes me cry. Everything makes me cry.
So this episode wraps up with Ted and Beard going to their new apartments. The gift basket is addressed to Tim Lasso, which is great. Yep. Ted calls his son.
Full of hula hoops.
Yes.
Hula hoops, Bovril, pot noodles, Frey Bentos pies. Oh, the great British things.
I was eating a packet of hula hoops watching this episode, writing notes.
I went and bought a big bag of hula hoops just so I could join in, to be honest.
I forgot that they had them in the scene as well, and it was just like when I was eating them, like, oh, that's great that Ted's eating them.
They're just delicious potato snacks.
Top tier.
It's him opening them, and he's got like a really nice flat. That's like a really nice flat,
wasn't it? Jeez, I could live there
in London. Well, in London where it's supposed to be, in fucking Kensington where it probably is. That's like $8,000 a month minimum rent. Like,
one thing as well, it's got an upstairs, but you never see the upstairs.
Is there?
You only see the one level.
True?
Yeah, because when he opens the bedroom door, there's a flight of stairs going up.
Oh,
that could be flights up to someone else's flat. If you've never lived in London flats, there's stairs everywhere, mate. Landlords are
but from his bedroom to his
okay, no, I didn't see that. But anyway, let's not dwell on the architecture of London, fake London suburbs.
Yeah.
He phones his wife,
that's a real flat. You can actually it's on Airbnb now. You can stay in it.
Nice.
Oh, fuck off.
If we win the lottery, I think we should go and have an evening in that.
We'll conduct a séance there.
We'll do it. We'll do a live episode of this podcast from that flat.
Oh, that'd be fun.
But
last episode.
Yeah, he phones his wife and he's like, "Yeah, I'm safe. They don't. I'm working. He's just Ted doing Ted stuff. He's chirpy and he's upbeat. And then we get like this sort of beat where we find out that the marriage isn't good. She's wanted some space from him. And like he says he loves her. She doesn't. You don't have to say it back. And then Ted sort of goes, "I can't go to sleep now." And it just ends. And it's like there's so much stuff that's just been put in front of me. This bountiful feast of deliciousness that I can't possibly absorb it all. And I'm glad we're doing this so I can go back through and pick out the tasty like bone marrow of the things that I missed the first time round.
I mean, you drop this pilot on any network on the planet, just this pilot, and as soon as they watch it, they're going to order it to series because there's so much great stuff.
Picked it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know, right?
NBC didn't want to. Like,
no.
Any of the big Peacock didn't want it.
It's ridiculous.
I think, yeah. But here we are. Yeah. And I'm glad that it is. Like, because there's no adverts, there's none of that nonsense in it. There's no blatant advertising, but it's just, I mean, if you want to watch it, it's available in salubrious places. You don't have to subscribe to Apple TV.
Wink, nudge, nudge. Say no more. Say
Yeah.
no more.
Well, again, the first episode of this lays so much of the groundwork in a pilot.
Yeah, for sure.
Where you think you want to like sort of get over the basic concepts of your show.
Yeah.
Ted Lasso didn't do that. It said we're going out and we're sowing the seeds from day one. And I love it.
For pro wrestling guys, this is long-term booking. This is what this is.
This is long-term storytelling.
For sure. Yeah. For sure.
As I kind of touched on earlier with that as well, like it's such a tonal shift as well at the end. Like, obviously Ted's like this like ray of sunshine. He's dead like positive, really upbeat. And then as soon as it's behind closed doors, obviously he's got his own stuff that's going on. He's not as happy as he comes across to everybody else.
It comes across that little bit with his hands, but you think, oh, he might just have arthritis or something. But
yeah. But yeah, it was, as I say, when he's kind of on the phone, it's like, oh, with his family, it's like, oh, okay, like his marriage is falling apart, and his solution is to literally like move as far away from it as he possibly can.
The most space you can give someone is half the world.
Oh, yeah, good call. Well, kids, there you go. There's the first episode of Ted Lasso. It's in the can. It's done. Awesome. Before we take this
half-hour time limit, did we?
We didn't quite make it. We're only over by 31 minutes.
But it doesn't matter because, like, I've genuinely enjoyed unpacking it all and like talking to people and having your theories and thoughts about what's going on. And
you can't cram it in 30 minutes.
No,
there's
you
no
can't
way.
cram it up in you.
So what? Let's put a button on this, guys. What are your biggest takeaways here? If you had to sum it up, what do you think, Joe? What's your biggest takeaway from this first episode?
I would say, don't judge people on the first impressions, because you will always be surprised, unless they come up to you wearing like a screwdriver shirt and they've got a Nazi armband on, in which case burn them instantly. Sure. But most people are redeemable, and if this knowing now what I know, this program proves that everyone, no matter how much of a bumhole you are, is redeemable and can become a normal, well-adjusted and fun member of society.
What say you, Jay?
Yeah, I can't say it better than Joe, really. I love the journeys the show takes you on with everybody. Like, so we were talking about it when we were like doing the pilot. I think Roy Kent might be my favorite character from any show ever, because he's just so he's so like stubborn, but when he finally kind of like realizes he's got to get out of his own way, he's just like great. But even in this, like like this first episode, he's just really kind of like, I hate everyone. I don't want anyone to even try and be my friend, with the exception of Sam, who he's instantly like, I'm going to look out for him because he seems like a nice guy. Like when Jamie's being a dick to him, he's like leave it.
But again, the more we find out about Roy and all that, it all makes sense. Yeah. And that's what's beautiful about it, is that like they sow this, like I said, long-term booking. They sow the seeds of these things, and some of them don't flourish on the first season, some of them don't flourish on the second season. But when they do bloom, they bloom the brightest and hardest of all of the flowers.
Yeah.
Man, how am I going to follow that up? Are you kidding me? That was awesome.
Sorry.
Let's say
I'm two for two on that one.
I know, right? Jeez. It was good. I laughed and stuff. That's it. The end. No,
there was jokes.
There was jokes and whatnot. And this fella with a mustache. So this is feel good television. I'm a sucker for happy endings. That's why I don't watch horror movies. I don't like when the bad guy wins. And anyone that likes that stuff is effing weird. I'm just kidding. It's okay to like what you want, but I need the hero to win in the end. And the fact that Ted won in the end and took everybody with him is great. I love this show so much. This is one of those shows I'm probably going to rewatch multiple times.
Whenever I'm sad.
Oh, it does something for you. It's chicken soup for the soul. How about that?
It is. There you
I didn't
go.
write that,
There's
but
one.
I'll take it. There you go, kids. There's episode 1. Stay tuned. Episode 2 coming soon. We appreciate you. For Jay, for Joe, I'm Tom. We'll see you next time.
Bye.